My cousin uninvited me from her bachelorette party saying, "It's for close friends only," but then asked me to babysit her kids. My parents backed her up saying you don't have anything better to do anyways, so instead, I booked a last-minute stay at a beach resort. She stood outside my house with her kids, calling me nonstop while I was sipping cocktails by the ocean. It was the first time in 28 years that I had ever stood up to Rachel, and honestly, it felt amazing. Looking back, I should have done this years ago. Our relationship had always been one-sided, with me constantly giving and her taking without a second thought. My therapist had been telling me for months that I needed to establish boundaries, but I kept making excuses. She's family, I'd say. It's complicated. The truth was simpler and harder to admit. I was afraid of the fallout, afraid of being the bad guy in our family's narrative. Growing up, it was small things. If she forgot her lunch at school, I had to share mine. If she had a school project due the next day, I was the one staying up late helping her finish it. If she threw a tantrum over something, my parents would tell me to be the bigger person and let it go. As we got older, nothing changed. Rachel had 2 kids young, and somehow, I became her unofficial babysitter. She would drop them off with little notice, assuming I had nothing better to do. If I had plans, too bad. If I was busy, I could make time. My entire life had been arranged around Rachel's needs and emergencies. The constant demands wore me down gradually, like water eroding stone. Every time I tried to establish even the smallest boundary, she'd find a way to make me feel guilty. "We're family," she'd say. Family helps each other out. But somehow, this help only flowed in one direction. When I needed support, like when I was hospitalized for pneumonia last winter, Rachel was conveniently too busy to visit. She sent a text message 3 days after I was discharged, asking if I could watch the kids that weekend because she had tickets to a concert. I put up with it for years. Then she got engaged to Jason, a wealthy real estate developer who seemed to indulge her every whim. When she called to tell me about their engagement, she spent 45 minutes describing the proposal, the ring, 3.2 carats, cushion cut, with a diamond band, and their plans for a destination wedding in the Bahamas. Not once did she ask how I was doing or mention the promotion I'd texted her about the week before. I had already accepted that I would probably be asked to do a million things for her wedding. She'd expect me to help with planning, go dress shopping, run errands, and, of course, watch the kids whenever she needed. I made a silent pact with myself to be supportive within reason. After all, it was a special day, and I wanted to be there for her despite our complicated relationship. I was prepared for all of that. What I wasn't prepared for was the bachelorette party situation. One day, I was scrolling through Instagram when I saw a post from one of our mutual friends. It was a countdown for Rachel's bachelorette trip, complete with a whole group of women celebrating and talking about how excited they were. I stared at my screen confused. I hadn't heard anything about this trip. I assumed it was just being planned, and I would hear about it soon. A few days passed. No invite. No mention of it. So I decided to ask. "Hey. Are you doing a bachelorette trip?" Rachel, "Oh, yeah. It's just going to be a small group. Only my closest friends." Closest friends. I was her only cousin. "Oh, I just assumed I'd be invited." Rachel, "I didn't think you'd be into it. We're doing a fun girls' weekend. I didn't want you to feel out of place." Out of place? What did that even mean? She must have seen the look on my face because she quickly added, "Rachel, you know it's nothing personal. I just want a certain vibe, you know." I nodded, pretending I understood. But inside, I was hurt. I didn't want to go on our trip badly enough to beg, but the fact that she didn't even consider inviting me, that stung. We had grown up together, spent summers at our grandparents' lake house, shared secrets under blanket forts. I was there when she had her first heartbreak at 16, and I helped her study for her college entrance exams when no one else would. The exclusion felt deliberate, calculated even. I later found out from our mutual friend Jess that Rachel had told everyone I was too uptight and would bring down the vibe of the weekend. Apparently, not drinking excessively and preferring quiet conversations to clubbing made me unsuitable for her precious bachelorette party. It was just another reminder that Rachel only valued me when I was useful to her. I swallowed it down and told myself it wasn't a big deal. She could have her party. I wasn't going to make a scene over it. I figured that was the end of it. On the surface, I maintained my composure, but something inside me had shifted. A small voice that had been whispering for years was finally getting louder. Enough is enough. I was wrong. 2 days before the trip, Rachel called me. She never calls unless she needs something. I picked up, already guessing where this was going. "Rachel, hey. So I have a huge favor to ask." I stayed silent, waiting. "Rachel, I need you to watch the kids this weekend. Our sitter just canceled, and I'm completely stuck." I almost left. She uninvited me from her trip because it was only for close friends, but now she expected me to drop everything and babysit so she could go. I let her keep talking. "Rachel, it would help me so much. You know how hard it is to find a sitter last minute, and I know you love spending time with them. There it was, the guilt trip. I wanted to say no immediately, but then an idea popped into my head. Instead of giving her an answer, I told her I'd get back to her later. She seemed relieved. Rachel, thanks, cuz I knew I could count on you. I hung up without promising anything. After we disconnected, I sat at my kitchen table, staring at the wall. My hands were shaking slightly, partly from anger, partly from the unfamiliar feeling of standing at a crossroads. For nearly 3 decades, I had been conditioned to say yes to Rachel, to prioritize her needs above my own. My therapist's words echoed in my head, what would happen if you put yourself first, just once? That's when the idea came to me. I deserved a break too. Why shouldn't I treat myself to something special? My finger hovered over my phone for just a moment before I made the decision. Then I went online and booked myself a last-minute trip to the Oceana Beach Resort, a place I've been wanting to visit for years. The confirmation email came through with a satisfying ping. $1,274.86 for 3 nights in an ocean view room, including breakfast and 1 spa treatment. It was more than I would typically spend on myself, but the sense of liberation I felt made it worth every penny. I spent the evening packing, carefully selecting comfortable outfits, and adding my new swimsuit that still had the tags on. I added my Kindle loaded with 3 novels I'd been meaning to read for months, and a journal I'd never used. This weekend would be just for me, no responsibilities, no guilt, no Rachel. The night before she was supposed to leave, Rachel called again. I saw her name flash on my phone screen and felt the familiar twinge of anxiety that always accompanied her calls. I took a deep, steadying breath before answering. Rachel, so we're good for tomorrow? I took a deep breath and kept my voice casual. Me, oh, I forgot to text you. I actually booked a trip for myself this weekend. I won't be around to babysit. Silence. Rachel, wait. What do you mean you booked a trip? You never go anywhere. I ignored the jab. Me, yeah. I figured it was time to do something fun for myself. Hope you figure things out. She started sputtering. Rachel, but wait. What? You can't just leave. What am I supposed to do with the kids? Me, not sure. Maybe ask one of your close friends. She gasped like I had slapped her. Rachel, oh my God. You're being so petty right now. I shrugged. Me, not trying to be. Just prioritizing myself like you did. Before she could say anything else, I told her I had to go. Then I turned off my phone notifications, packed my bags, and went to bed. The next morning, I got up early, grabbed my things, and left. I was on the beach, drink in hand, enjoying the sound of the waves when my phone started exploding. Missed calls, voicemails, angry texts. The first one, Rachel, where are you? I'm at your house. The next, Rachel, you said you'd help me. Then my mom called. I let it go to voicemail. Then she called again and again. Finally, I answered, Mom, Rachel is outside your house with the kids. What is going on? I took a sip of my drink. Me, I told her I wouldn't be home. I have my own plans this weekend. Mom, wait. So she expected you to babysit? Me, yep. Without even asking me first. Silence. Then, Mom, I see. She didn't yell at me. She didn't tell me I was being selfish. For the first time ever, she actually sounded tired of Rachel's behavior too. Now I'm sitting by the ocean watching the sunset while my phone keeps buzzing on the table. Rachel is still outside my house, furious, calling me nonstop. I'm debating whether I should answer. Maybe after I finish my drink. I sat there, watching the waves roll in, feeling the warm breeze on my face. The sound of the ocean drowned out the buzzing of my phone, but I could still see the notifications piling up. Rachel wasn't giving up. After a few minutes of silence, my phone started ringing again. But this time, it wasn't Rachel. It was my dad. My dad never calls unless something serious is happening. I sighed, picked up, and braced myself. Dad, where are you? His voice was calm, but I could hear the edge in his tone. Me, at the beach, taking a break. Dad, Rachel is crying in front of your house with the kids. She's saying you abandoned them. I closed my eyes and took a slow breath. Me, I didn't abandon anyone. I never agreed to babysit. Dad, you know she had plans this weekend. She needed your help. There it was, the usual speech. The expectation that I would always step up no matter what. Me, she uninvited me from her trip. She didn't think I was close enough to be there, but I was close enough to be her free babysitter. No. Not this time. Dad was quiet for a moment. Dad, I understand that you're upset, but family takes care of each other. I let out a short laugh. Me, does Rachel take care of me? Has she ever? Or am I just expected to drop everything for her whenever she wants? More silence. Then, something I didn't expect. Dad, your mother and I are on our way to get the kids. I sat up straighter in my chair. Me? Wait. You're going to Rachel's house? Dad? No. Your house. She left the kids there, and she left. I felt a slow, creeping anger rise in my chest. Rachel had actually left her kids outside my house, assuming anyone would take care of them. She hadn't found another babysitter. She hadn't made alternate plans. She had just dumped them there and left. I clenched my jaw and took another sip of my drink. Me? How long ago? Dad. About 20 minutes. Your mother and I are already halfway there. I exhaled sharply. She really thought I would cave, that I would rush home in a panic and take responsibility like I always did. Not this time. Me. Good. Let me know when you have them. Then I hung up. I stared out at the water, trying to calm myself down. I felt bad for the kids. They didn't deserve this. They had no idea their mother was using them as pawns in some ridiculous guilt trip. I considered calling Rachel, but I already knew what she'd say. She'd play the victim. She'd turn this around on me. She'd tell everyone I was the cruel, selfish cousin who forced her to leave her children on a doorstep because she had no other choice. It wasn't worth it. 15 minutes later, my dad texted. Dad, we have them. I let out a breath I didn't realize I was holding. Then another text came through. Dad, we're taking them to our house. Your mother is furious. That made me pause. Mom was furious? That was new. My mom had always made excuses for Rachel, always found ways to smooth things over. But something about this had pushed her too far. Before I could think too much about it, another message came through, this time from Rachel. Rachel, how could you call Mom and Dad on me? So now I was the problem? I rolled my eyes and kept reading. Rachel, you know I had nowhere else to bring them. What else was I supposed to do? Rachel, you're seriously making this a huge deal over a trip? You're petty and selfish. Then the final message, Rachel, you're dead to me. I stared at the screen for a second before locking my phone and setting it aside. I wasn't going to let her ruin my weekend, but I had a feeling this wasn't over yet. I let Rachel's angry text sit there unread while I leaned back into my lounge chair. The sun was setting over the ocean, casting everything in deep shades of gold and orange. The waves were steady, rhythmic, peaceful. I should have been relaxed, but something gnawed at me. Rachel wasn't the type to just let things go. She had always been good at shifting blame, turning situations in her favor. And this? This was the kind of thing she would hold on to for years. I sighed, took a slow sip of my drink, and grabbed my phone again. 42 unread messages. Mostly from Rachel, some from my mom. I skimmed the latest texts from Mom first. Mom, we have the kids. Mom, Rachel isn't answering our calls. Mom, call me when you can. I frowned. Rachel wasn't answering them? She was texting me nonstop, but ignoring them? That didn't make sense. I hesitated, then clicked on her name. The texts were exactly what I expected. Rachel, I hope you're happy. You ruined everything. Rachel, you're so bitter it's disgusting. Rachel, you embarrassed me in front of everyone. Rachel, I hope you're enjoying yourself while I'm falling apart. Nothing new. Just the usual guilt tripping. I was about to put my phone away again when a new message popped up. Rachel, I told my friends what you did. They all agree you're an awful cousin. No wonder you don't have many close friends. I exhaled sharply. There it was. I had spent my whole life being the responsible one. The one who could be counted on. The good cousin. Rachel was used to me needing to be the bigger person. But now that I wasn't bending over backwards for her, she had to paint me as the villain. I locked my phone and set it aside again. Let her tell her version. I didn't care. At least, I thought I didn't. About an hour later, just as I was finishing dinner at the resort's open-air restaurant, my phone buzzed again. I sighed, expecting another round of angry texts, but it wasn't Rachel. It was my neighbor. Neighbor, hey. Are you home? There's someone banging on your front door. My stomach dropped. I typed back quickly. Me, who is it? Neighbor, I think it's Rachel. She's yelling your name. Of course, she was. I clenched my jaw. Rachel must have realized that our parents weren't going to cave the way they usually did. And now, she was at my house, probably ready to scream at me in person. Me, I'm out of town. Neighbor, yeah. She's not happy about that. What do you want me to do? I took a slow breath. Me, ignore her. Neighbor, she's waking up the whole street. I rubbed my temples. This wasn't normal. Rachel was dramatic, sure. But this was something else. What was she trying to do? Make a scene? Get me to rush home? Because if that was her plan, it wasn't going to work. 15 minutes later, another text popped up. This time from my dad. Dad, Rachel just showed up at our house. She's demanding the kids back. I frowned. That didn't make sense. She left them there. She walked away. She ignored their calls, and now she wanted them back? Then another text. Dad, something's off. She's acting strange. That was not what I expected. Rachel was a lot of things, but she wasn't careless with her kids. She was entitled. She was manipulative, but she was calculated. If she left them behind, it was because she wanted to prove a point. But now, she was backtracking? Something was wrong. Then my phone buzzed again. Another message from my neighbor. Neighbor, so Rachel left, but a guy came looking for her, like, 5 minutes later. My stomach twisted. Me, what guy? Neighbor, tall. Kind of rough looking. He knocked a couple times, looked around, then left. I stared at my phone, my pulse picking up. Rachel didn't date guys like that. She only surrounded herself with people who could benefit her in some way. Who was this guy? And why was he looking for her? I scrolled back up to Rachel's last message. Rachel, I hope you're enjoying yourself while I'm falling apart. I had assumed she was just being dramatic, but now, I wasn't so sure. I couldn't shake the feeling that something was wrong. Rachel was unpredictable, but this was different. She had gone from furious to desperate in a matter of hours. First, she abandoned her kids. Then, she wanted them back. Then, some random guy was showing up at my house looking for her? It didn't add up. I tried to push it aside and enjoy my weekend, but my gut kept telling me I couldn't ignore this. So I did something I hadn't done in years. I called Rachel. She didn't answer. I tried again. Voicemail. I stared at my phone, debating. Then I called my dad. He picked up immediately. Dad, she just left. Me, what happened? Dad, sigh. She showed up out of nowhere, demanding the kids back. Your mother told her no until she explained what was going on. Rachel lost it. Yelling, crying, saying we were all against her. Me, did she say why she left them in the first place? Dad, not really. But she kept saying she had to fix something before it was too late. My fingers tightened around my phone. Me, did she say what she needed to fix? Dad, no. And she wouldn't let me call the police either. She said she had it under control. That didn't sound like Rachel. Rachel always made sure people saw her as the victim. If she had any excuse to get authorities involved, she would, which meant she was actually scared. I checked the time. It was late, but I had a bad feeling this wasn't over. And I was right. At around 2 a.m., I was woken up by the sound of my phone vibrating loudly on the nightstand. A call from my mom. I answered immediately. Me, what's wrong? Mom, Rachel's at our house again, and so is that man. I shot out of bed. Me, what? He followed her there. Mom, yes. They're arguing outside. Me, call the police. Mom, your father already did, but Rachel keeps telling us not to. I was already throwing on my clothes. I grabbed my purse and rushed to check out of the resort. Me, I'm coming home. Mom, what? No. Don't. But I had already hung up. Rachel had dragged our whole family into whatever mess she was in. And now? I needed to see it with my own eyes. By the time I pulled up to our parents' house, there were 2 police cars outside. Rachel was on the front porch, crying hysterically. The man who I now got a good look at was pacing on the sidewalk shouting something at her. He was tall, rough-looking, angry. I didn't recognize him. Rachel did not date men like this. One of the officers was standing between them trying to defuse the situation. I parked and got out, feeling my heart pound in my chest. Mom saw me first and rushed over. Mom, I told you not to come. Me, too late. I looked at Rachel, then at the man. Me, who is that? Mom shook her head. Mom, we don't know. I turned to Rachel. Me, Rachel. Who is that? Rachel refused to look at me. The man turned toward me instead. Man, oh, you're the cousin, the one who left her high and dry. I took a step back, caught off guard. Me, excuse me? Man, mocking voice. I need a weekend to myself. I don't have time to help my own cousin. My blood ran cold. Me, Rachel, did you tell him about me? Rachel still wouldn't look at me. The man laughed. Man, of course, you did. She blamed you. Said you were the reason she was stuck in this mess. I clenched my jaw. Me, what mess? Man, the money. I felt like the ground had been ripped out from under me. Me, what money? The man scoffed. Man, the $10,000 she owes me. My heart stopped. I turned to Rachel. Me? Tell me he's lying. Rachel finally looked up. Her face was pale, her eyes bloodshot. Rachel, whispering, I needed the money for the wedding. I stared at her. Me? You borrowed money from him? Why? She wiped her face, shaking her head. Rachel, I thought I could pay it back before he came looking. The man laughed again. Man, yeah. Well, you thought wrong. I turned back to him. Me, so you're a loan shark? Man, I prefer businessmen. I inhaled sharply. Me, and you thought? What? Coming here and making a scene would get your money faster. He shrugged. Man, she wasn't answering my calls. She ran out of excuses. So here we are. I looked at Rachel again. Me, is this why you left the kids at my house? Rachel covered her face. Rachel, mumbling, I didn't want them to be around if things got bad. I closed my eyes. She had used me. She had tried to guilt me into watching her kids so she could deal with a loan shark in secret. Then when I refused, she had left them anyway. She had put all of us at risk because she didn't want to take responsibility for her own actions. I was done. The police ended up escorting the man away after taking statements. Rachel tried to apologize to our parents, but they weren't having it. Dad, you put your kids in danger, Rachel. You put all of us in danger, Mom, and you tried to blame your cousin for your mistake. Rachel kept sobbing, saying she didn't know what else to do. I stood there silent. I felt nothing. I wasn't angry anymore. I wasn't even surprised. I was just tired. Me, figure it out, Rachel. She looked up at me, eyes wide. Rachel, you're just going to walk away? Me, yes. For the first time in my life, I didn't feel obligated to fix things for her. She had made this mess. She would have to clean it up. I turned, walked back to my car, and drove away. Rachel and I didn't talk for weeks. The silence between us stretched like an unfamiliar but not uncomfortable expanse. I found myself sleeping better, focusing more at work, and even rekindling old friendships that I'd let slip away because Rachel's demands had always taken precedence. My therapist noted the change in my demeanor almost immediately. You're sitting differently, she said during our session. Your shoulders aren't up around your ears anymore. I found out later through our cousin Jamie that my parents forced Rachel to sell a few of her wedding luxuries to pay off the debt. Her designer wedding dress was returned and replaced with something more modest. The elaborate 5-tier cake became a simple 2-tier. The 8-piece band was downgraded to a DJ. The guest list was cut from 250 to 75. The wedding still happened on May 17th at the local country club instead of the Bahamas. From the photos Jamie showed me, it was a far smaller event than Rachel had originally planned, but still lovely in its own way. Rachel looked beautiful in her dress, though there was a tightness around her eyes in every picture, a forced quality to her smile that suggested she was still bitter about how things had turned out. I wasn't in the bridal party. I wasn't even invited. Jamie told me that Rachel had told everyone that I abandoned her in her time of need, that I'd shown my true colors when she most needed support. She had spun a narrative that painted her as the victim and me as the villain. 5 years ago, this would have devastated me. Now, I found that I didn't particularly care what Rachel or her friends thought of me. And honestly, I was okay with that. The day of her wedding, I took myself on a hike to the waterfall in Redwood State Park, a trip I'd been wanting to make for years but had never found the time for. I sat on a sun-warmed rock, listening to the thundering water, and felt nothing but peace. No guilt, no resentment, just the simple pleasure of being exactly where I wanted to be. My parents called me the day after the wedding. There was an awkwardness between us at first. They had enabled Rachel's behavior for years, after all, but they were making an effort. My mom asked if I wanted to come over for Sunday dinner the following weekend. Just us, she added quickly. Rachel won't be there. It was a small acknowledgement, but it meant something. Life goes on. Rachel and Jason are expecting their 3rd child now. We see each other at family gatherings and maintain a polite, distant relationship. She no longer asks me to babysit or run errands for her. Sometimes I catch her looking at me with a mixture of resentment and something else, perhaps respect, or at least understanding that the dynamics between us have permanently changed. As for me, I'm dating someone now who values my time and respects my boundaries. I've taken 3 more solo trips in the past year, each one a reminder of that first revelatory weekend by the ocean. I've learned that saying no doesn't make the world end. That setting boundaries doesn't make me selfish. For the first time in my life, I put myself first, and I don't regret it. Not for a single moment. Sometimes I wonder what would have happened if I had never stood up to Rachel, if I had continued being her doormat for the rest of our lives. The thought makes me shudder. That beach trip wasn't just a vacation, it was the beginning of my real life. And while the journey hasn't always been easy, I wouldn't trade my freedom for anything. Number 1, I protect my time now. Number 2, I no longer accept guilt as currency. Number 3, I recognize that helping others doesn't mean sacrificing myself. These 3 principles guide me now, and they've transformed not just my relationship with Rachel, but how I move through the world. It took me 28 years to learn these lessons, but I'm grateful that I finally did.